Welcome back to Truth and Heart Unfiltered with Pam Glenn. Before I begin, just a quick little reminder, I encourage you all to subscribe and turn on the notifications for this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. I have so much information to share with you all about the topic of relationship abuse. I plan to share this important information one post at a time, and I have many more posts to come in the very near future. Now, on another note, it's important to acknowledge that the content in these videos includes topics of trauma. If this is triggering for any of you, please feel free to just turn off the video and, most importantly, take care of yourselves. So let's begin. I'm going to start today with a story. As many of you know, I'm a certified nurse midwife. One of my jobs long ago included going into a battered women's shelter one day a week to help the women residents there get updated on their health care. They actually had a clinic room in the shelter. The other part of this job is that they asked me to occasionally come back in the evenings and talk to the women residents there about a various women's health topic. I was driving into the shelter one evening to do just that, and I decided that evening I'm going to do things just a little bit differently tonight. So I simply took time to name and define the various abusive behaviors to the 8 women sitting around the table that evening. It seemed that as I defined each of these behaviors that they had lived with their abusive partners, that the more I offered these definitions, their eyes just got bigger, their jaws dropped. And once I completed this list of defining the abusive behaviors one at a time, explaining how they might play out in an abusive relationship, the women shared with me that doing so made them real. They realized these behaviors are a real thing. They're not just a figment of my imagination, which is what some of them said their abusers told them. So it seemed that hearing the definitions not only made them real, but also helped the women to feel very validated and empowered. It was also an aha moment for me as a clinician, simply seeing how empowering it was to provide this information, these definitions of abuse. So just as I did for these women, my plan for you all is to define each abuse behavior one post at a time. For each of the unhealthy behaviors that I describe, I'm also going to present the healthy side of things. I plan to call this On the Flip Side, showing the healthier alternative to the abusive behavior. Now moving on, here's a phrase that I find to be true many times. So the phrase is this: when you learn it, you see it. When you see it, you can name it for what it is. Let's look at a few situations and how this can play out. So first situation, let's say somebody's in an abusive relationship. Once they've learned that these behaviors are a real thing, they've learned the definitions, they're able to then see it and name it for what it is. Now let's take a second situation. For those starting a new relationship, and it's important to point out that understanding the behaviors of abuse and their definitions does not prevent somebody from ending up in an abusive relationship. I wish that were so. However, knowing the behaviors ahead of time proactively helps people to see it early on when these behaviors may start to creep into a relationship. They serve as red flag or warning signs that this relationship is not going down a healthy road, but instead is ending up going down the path of abuse. Let's look at a third situation. Maybe after hearing some of this information, you're starting to realize that you're doing some of these behaviors towards your partner. That might be the case. Just like the high school students I mentioned in my previous post, when they learned about each abusive behavior, some realized that they had been doing these behaviors towards their partner without even realizing it. And they wrote in their journals that they were determined to make a change. They were determined to not continue this unhealthy way of operating, but instead to choose a healthier way. And choosing a healthier way is an option for us all. In fact, this is great information to share with all the people you know, but I do want to point out this is also great information for preteens and teens in your life, as they can then have this important information as they begin dating. Now, as I often say, you never know how passing this YouTube link along to others, this information, passing it along to others, can positively and significantly impact their lives. So I encourage you to share this YouTube link with all the different people in your lives. So my next group of posts is going to begin naming, defining, and explaining these abusive behaviors, one behavior at a time and one post at a time. My next video is going to begin with the first abusive behavior called isolation. Isolation is the behavior we often see early on, in fact, oftentimes in the beginning of a relationship that's going to become abusive. And isolation can serve as an early warning sign or red flag that this relationship, again, may be going down the path of abuse. I'll end my video today, as always. If any of you are in an abusive relationship, please check out the video description with my post. Check out the hotline numbers. There's an advocate available to you 24/7. If you need any assistance, you can call them and they will help you with your individual situation. And if you're in any danger, please call 911 immediately. And finally, I encourage you to share with me in the comments section of my post your insights, your thoughts, your reactions to this information, your aha moments. It would be great to hear from you. So thank you so much again for your time today. Take care, and I'll see you at the next post.